section of Essentialism, your video distillation of the third section. The third section is entitled Eliminate, and it's divided like the others into subsections. We're going to start with clarification. So clarify, clarity of purpose. Greg McKeown teaches us that it drives esprit de corps in a team. If you make the one decision that makes 100, that is a really helpful idea. So if you make the decision, I will be home for dinner 4 out of 5 nights per week, then that decision prevents other little one-off decisions from eroding that essential intent. He asks us in clarification to think about eyeglasses. So are we pretty cool with kind of clear, or do we need the focus of exactly what our clarification needs? He says it's the same for values and mission statements. When there's not clarity of purpose among a team, that essential intent, which we'll get into in the next section a little bit more, people tend to play politics. People tend to try to do things to impress their manager, inflate their importance. These are maneuvers to increase their apparent security. And it's different than making a high-level contribution to a team that is focused together on serving this one clear purpose, right? In the personal life, the personal version is to run around looking good and acquiring things, right? Being seen on social media in a certain kind of way. Those tangible things that really are no replacement for the intangibles that are what we most deeply are craving. We're not craving the thing, we're craving the feeling that the thing will bring. It's a big one. Also, when we don't have clarity, we have a sense of leaderlessness, right? People are adrift. If you have a bunch of people rowing in a boat and you don't have a leader saying stroke, stroke, then you may not be in rhythm. You may be doing random things that are actually overlapping, redundant, or counterproductive to one another. So this is not helpful. It's the opposite of speed and efficiency. It is the opposite of building momentum and experiencing success as a unit, which builds on itself and propagates that success. So to talk a little bit more about essential intent. Essential intent is a statement of purpose. It needs to be inspirational, but also concrete. It needs to be meaningful, but also measurable. So it has some overlap with SMART goals. It has some overlap with mission statements, but it's a little bit of both of those. So his advice to us is stop wordsmithing and start deciding. You need to know when you have accomplished it. How will we know when we are successful and we're done? Which activities and efforts will add up to your single most significant contribution as either an individual or as a team? The next subsection in Eliminate is Dare, the power of a graceful no. And again, this is a callback to the no chapter in Zoe Chance's Influence is Your Superpower. And also there's some overlap here with Atomic Habits for sure. But he acknowledges, like Zoe Chance did, we have many good reasons for fear in saying no. The social awkwardness of it is among the top. And, retribution is another. Mostly just we're not familiar with how to say no gracefully and in a way that doesn't abrupt a relationship. So one of the quotes here is, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Again, a way that we are vulnerable to the trivial many things creeping in when we are unfocused on that one main thing. There's also something here that I want to share that is like your body being the arbiter of a certain kind of wisdom in what you need to say yes to and what you need to say no to, that there is a deeper way of knowing that's not just intellectual. It's not just the question of, is this intellectually aligned with my main thing? But it's really an embodiment practice of knowing when you are also honoring an intuitive yes that is perhaps on the surface in contradiction to your underlying why. So that may be me carving out a piece of something from Essentialism, but I share it with you nonetheless. Separating the decision from the relationship. So we're going back to how do we say no without abrupting the relationship? it is saying no to them about this for now, just like Zoe Chance talked about. And we can choose no without saying no. There is a nice paragraph, this is on page 137 if you have the book, about how we don't have to actually show our math. We don't have to say no in order to do no. And in fact, that sometimes is healthier for the relationship in which the no needs to exist. I love that. Sometimes when you say no, you just have to be clear that you are trading popularity for respect. And that is an interesting proposition, I think, to think about. So focusing on the calculation or trade-off in our head, doing it in a relationship, knowing that you may suffer a little reduction in like pleasing the person, but then noticing, oh, we don't actually have to be people pleasers. We can just do what's true, and then it sometimes will please others and sometimes it won't, and we can handle that. We can handle the other side of that equation. Here's something. A clear no is better than a non-committal yes, especially if you aren't actually going to be able to follow up on that yes. I am experiencing that now in a project where somebody who agreed to be part of the project really just kind of dropped out. I wish that that person had said no at the beginning, because then we would have actually replaced that person with somebody else. So I am aligned with this very much. A clear no is much better than a yes that actually means no in practice. He suggests that we learn the art of the slow yes and the quick no. I can't, but so-and-so might. You're welcome to do this. I am willing to do that. Yes, but what should I deprioritize? Take the awkward pause. Let me check my calendar, get back to you. Use humor. All of these things also in Zoe Chance's book. The next subsection here is uncommit. Win by cutting your losses. Sunk cost bias is when we contribute and continue to contribute our time or money in a losing proposition that we have determined is a losing proposition. But we feel like because we're already this far in, we can't stop. He's like, no, if you notice that it's really not useful, go ahead and extricate yourself from it. Don't believe the sunk cost bias. As an aside, I like to tell people there is no sunk cost. You are always learning. So if you've learned your lesson, no need to keep learning it. You can separate. Take that lesson with you. Don't do the same thing exactly again, right? Winning or learning. And one thought that he offers in this section is you're not married to this. Like you can reverse course at any time. As an aside, the person who extricated themselves from the project is practicing this. They uncommitted. They did it in a socially appropriate way. And also I'm on the receiving end of their no, and it's frustrating. We're all going to survive, and so will the relationship. I do think that a coach can be an amazing thought partner and helper in the process of extricating, clarifying, and just having a neutral observer's reflections of what's going on. Like, oh, it sounds like you're not aligned with doing this anymore. Tell me where I'm wrong. And I love this next idea. It's called a reverse pilot. So consider a reverse pilot project where you imagine or test what happens when you simply subtract an initiative. Instead of adding something, we subtract and see like, oh, was that report even actually necessary? No, then we can eliminate all of the work that went into that. So, avoid commitment traps in the first place, because uncommitting is harder than just saying no before. Love it. Love the uncommit section. Next is edit. Edit is part of this eliminate section. So cutting away the trivial so that only the essential remains and can thrive. He compares this to a sculptor cutting away the part of the stone or the wood that is not helpful to this beautiful sculpture emerging. Deliberate subtraction every day or every week actually adds value and can make a film or an art project or your professional life more successful. As Stephen King says, kill your darlings. Even though you really love this, is it contributing to the one thing that you're trying to serve right now? We condense when we edit, less waste, lower effort for the same result, get succinct, get concise. We condense, we correct, returning again and again to our trajectory of our core purpose. Where is it we want to end up? What is the ultimate goal? And actually edit less sometimes is what's useful. He makes this analogy: the best surgeon is not the one who cuts the most, but the one who cuts the most appropriately. So yes, there is also restraint in the use of restraint. And finally, the subsection limit. The freedom of setting boundaries. It is so hard to put clear boundaries between work and home life when many of us are at home doing the majority of our work. We are physically at home, but our minds are in a different place. So how could that not be confusing and overlapping? So when we make one exception, the neural pathway is there for us to make the exception, so we can do it many more times. So being very rigorous with protecting space and time according to your values and your goals. It seems like a really good idea. He suggests in this section, their problem is not your problem. So think about, that one person maybe in your life who doesn't seem to get it when they're crossing the line over and over again, when they impose on your time or they do something that they probably could have figured out on themselves and they're asking you to solve it. We don't want to enable them or limit their development by robbing them of their problems. And just because it's a big deal to them right now does not mean that it needs to go up to the top of your to-do list right now. Is that your problem? Ooh, this is a hard one, to just like swat it away with your tennis racket or your ping pong paddle and be like, not right now. That's not actually my priority right now. And then finally, find your deal breakers. The things that really make you feel violated or pulled out of your focus work into the trivial, and just don't consent to them unless they very clearly overlap with your goals and priorities. Some of the stories in the book were about deal breakers of people, needing to spend weekend time alone or weekend time only with family, not doing work. Dinner times at home. These are really common deal breakers. So think about what your deal breakers are, and I would write them down so that you really have an externalized version of them to look at, so that you don't accidentally have job creep or social media creep or whatever it is, and you remain aligned with the limits that you set for yourself in this realm of essentialism. I hope that you are finding this helpful, and I will see you in the final video, which is about executing